So I go to the bookstore in February because one, it's my birthday, two, I want a book for my birthday, and three, thank you, shukran so much, parents, for feeding my addiction to books. Thank you. So then this nice lady comes up to us and asks, is there a book you're looking for maybe? Do you have something specific in mind? And great customer service, first of all. Second, terrifying for an introvert like me. So I just go, anything? Just no spice, maybe? Such a vague answer, but thankfully she doesn't say anything, she doesn't complain, she just looks for recommendations for me. And they were nice recommendations, but I ended up looking around more and I found a Percy Jackson, the full series, a little cheaper than it should be. And I went, Dad, can I get this? And he got it for me. And that is how I ended up reading the Percy Jackson series. Shukran again, Dad. My dad might be watching this and think to himself, where did I get such a weird child? Why are you putting this on the internet? Hello, hi, assalamualaikum. I am Riika and I will be drawing your Percy Jackson OCs. I'm assuming you do know what Percy Jackson is, but if not, don't worry, I got you. I have a description I can quickly read to you. So, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, that book series specifically, is a book series about a 12-year-old modern demigod, Percy Jackson, who is coming to terms with his newfound divine powers. And of course, he needs to save the world in some shape or form every book. And I finished the book series from 1 to 5. I only looked at the stars basically. So I did that, and I really wanted to talk about my feelings on the book series, but I couldn't just post anything here because this is a art channel. So I had an idea and I went into Unveil and I posted something that basically asked if I could draw these artist Percy Jackson OCs. And thankfully, there were some people who did send their links so I can draw their OCs for this video. And then I would also talk about some of my opinions in the video too, but honestly, it isn't that much. But with that, we can move on to the speed paints. So Freya is 17 years old. She's lived in Camp Half Blood since she was around 8 years old. So her outside world knowledge is a little skewed according to Elf. She ran away from home around that same age and only made it to camp 6 months later. As for personality, I gathered that she is sarcastic, a little goofy, and she prides herself for her sense of humor. She is the child of Hermes, which makes sense when we think about what was just said, and eventually she matures after the events of the book and mellows out. Although her goofy humor can still be seen with certain people in certain situations, and that's what I used and based on my drawing of because I want to have like this drawing where she looks like she's having fun, but she's also matured. She's gone through things basically. Like the description said, she used to be this really happy-go-lucky kind of character, but as she went on, she becomes more mature, she becomes more grounded to reality basically, where she is smiling in this picture, but she has so many thoughts at the moment. But she is happy to be speaking to her friends. That's basically what I imagined. It was a struggle. I changed it a few times, and then the other thing was her hair. I've never drawn hair like hers before, or more specifically, I haven't colored and rendered this kind of hair that has red highlights in it and so on. So it was fun eventually when I got to paint a word, but also it was very difficult to get right the first time. As a child, 12 to 14 years old, I would have been obsessed with Percy Jackson, let me say that. But as an adult, I still like it a lot, especially the world building. But the difference between child me and adult me, I, as a child, would have been obsessed with the ships. But then, as an adult right now, I'm more interested in the world building, Greek mythology, and how that interacts with modern life right now. So, that being said, I wasn't really into the romance aspects of the show, of the book, I mean, but it was still a really nice experience reading all the books and experiencing a new world to me, and a very unique one too, with characters I haven't read about before, and finally getting to see what happens with the characters. So I need to tell you, as a Percy Jackson fan that just came to my video of the seeing Percy Jackson on the title, or you're actually from the Unveil community and came to my YouTube channel, that I primarily do anime and OC content. So with that in mind, I need to tell you that the animes that I watched as a child were long running. So every new arc, every episode, there was something new that happened, and I would be surprised there was something new every time. I thought there was nothing more to add, everything was established already. But no, there was more. And so PGO, as a whole, as far as I've read, does the same thing, and I was pleasantly surprised by that actually. And here is the finished drawing after I went into Ibis Paint and did some touch-ups. So our next character's name is Angelina Diams. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Her nickname is Chi. She's 15 years old and her godly parent is Aphrodite. Her mortal parent, Aden Diams. Her personality, she's not really a great person when you don't know her. And even when you do know her, she's still a little not so kind, but she does show kindness to you as her friend. I'm hoping. And she has anger issues, she has powers too, both charm speak and emotional control, if I'm reading this correctly. That's also something I leaned into when I was drawing, because I wanted to have a try this charm speaking ability, and I try to draw her like speaking and she's trying to charm speak someone and she's acting a little cutesy to, how do you say, enhance her power. I don't think she would actually do that, I'm not sure, according to the description, especially with the word that's used to describe her. Maybe I should have done more research before I actually drew the pose. Also, the pose was fun to draw, even though it was very new to me. The rendering was not so great for me. Something I'm mad about actually is that I didn't notice that this person sent 3 links to 3 different OCs. I wish I could have seen that she actually gave me 3 OCs so I can maybe draw 2 together or something like that. And some of them look so cool too. I was upset about that. I only learned about this charm speak through the next part of the series in Percy Jackson, the next book series, I would say, the Lost Olympians. Before moving on to another topic, regarding the world, it is very easy to interact with, I would say, especially for the fandom when they want to make OCs and if they want to insert themselves into this, they are able to interact very easily with the world of Percy Jackson. So even for the writers, I would say it's easy to keep building onto this world, especially with the different mythologies and so on. And even you can see that with the newer books and with other books that has been already been created, where you can just introduce more characters based off who their children, who their parents are, basically, which I find very cool. I can even see myself making an OC for the PGO series. I'm not sure when or where, but eventually maybe. In short, I liked the girl characters. They weren't shallow. They all had their own problems and they all had their certain personalities and issues and so on. Annabeth, I liked her and I love that Percy Jackson just goes to her and says, "So what we're gonna do?" He always turned to her for like approval and so on. I really like that. Someone pointed it out and I couldn't unsee it while I was reading the book. Clarice was also interesting. She's much more aggressive than in the series, let me tell you that. There's also other characters I can't talk about right now for spoiler reasons, but my heart, I felt something for those children. And here's the finished drawing, but I did try to adjust it in Ibis Paint, but I felt I ruined it. Just tell me which one you prefer. Okay, so Bailey is a 16-year-old demigod with a calm, steady presence and a golden glow that seems to follow him everywhere. Gifted in archery and rare among Apollo kids for his strong healing abilities, he leans towards restoration rather than destruction. His emerald eyes carry a faint golden ring that brightens when he channels heliokinesis or photokinesis, and sunlight literally clings to him, sometimes making his freckles bloom brighter when Apollo starts to drift his way. I sadly can't keep reading, even though there's so much more interesting things that I could read to you. I will also leave links to the characters in the description too. So, one thing I lean towards is his archery, which we'll get into in a second. So with Bailey, I leaned into the archery aspect of his description and tried doing a more dynamic pose where he is holding his bow and arrow and he's ready to shoot. I tried my best, it's really out of my comfort zone, so I spent the whole night trying to get that pose right. So don't get attached to any of the sketches you see because those sketches most likely will change to something else. Even the final sketch ended up differently than it should have been. I feel I could improve a lot more eventually on these kind of poses, but for now I am satisfied with what came out. And the colors were really fun to render and so on. Yeah, point being, I tried my best and the coloring was super fun after all that torture. Anyway, I would say that I did try to have him have this calm expression where he is getting ready for a shot and is not panicking or looks too serious. He's just calm. While we're on the topic of him, his godly parent Apollo, I actually enjoyed in the book. He was just a little weirdo, honestly. And then also, I enjoyed seeing his interactions with Artemis, which is another character I kind of liked in the book series too. Which brings us to the next section and last one for this video. So when I went into the book, I knew nothing about Nico because there was no Nico in the movie and I didn't want to spoil myself. So the way you will go into a book or a series or some kind of franchise and then they make a next generation and then you get apprehensive, you get protective of the original cast. That is how I felt about Nico when he first spoke about Annabeth, if you know what I'm talking about, and I was like, why? Why would you say that? I just wanted to mention that moment. It's funny right now, but back then I did not think it was funny. But he's still a complicated character that I enjoy reading about anyway, even though he's not my favorite. I still think I don't have a favorite. Some at the top of my head would probably be Grover and the relationship between him and Percy. I don't know. So then another one I can think of is Tyson. I found their relationship development very interesting to read in book 3 because I'm also a sibling and I find those topics interesting. So then there's also my favorite god and Percy Jackson relationship, and that would obviously be Mr. D and Percy Jackson. I just love the interactions. Maybe there's better ones according to everyone else. Tell me maybe what your favorites are. But for me, it's Mr. D and Percy Jackson. Their interactions always end very fun to me, and even the scarier ones that get a little more depth, I find them interesting because they are so opposing to each other. I don't know, some people have their favorite gods, but for me, I read that book and I went, I don't trust any of you, other than Artemis, maybe. And that is the end of the speed paint. The most complicated thing I've done in such a long time. It came out really nice. There are some things I can improve on, but I like it. And I hope the wonderful creators behind these OCs also liked it. Hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers. Thank you so much for entrusting me with your OCs, and I hope that I can do this again because there were other submissions too, and I really want to do more. So, there probably will be a part 2, and there's more things I want to talk about in the Percy Jackson series too because this only scratched the surface. There was a lot I needed to cut out. And I would also love to hear what you think about the Percy Jackson series, if you agree or disagree with some things I said. Again, thank you for watching and bye.